Tonight, we are tracking what could turn out to be the worst or one of the worst hurricanes ever to hit the United States. Category 5 is the most dangerous designation for a hurricane, and Hurricane Irma, at the moment, hitting Turks and Caicos Islands, is Category 5. It is a Category 5 hurricane. The storm is more than 370 miles wide, with winds up to 175 miles an hour. Hurricane Irma is expected to make landfall, which is to say, crash into Florida on Sunday. The National Weather Service's ability to precisely track the hurricane can save lives and save money. Accurate warnings can be issued about who needs to evacuate and, almost as importantly, who doesn't need to evacuate, what businesses need to close down and what businesses don't need to close down. This is crucial, life-saving information, and crucial information for the economy of the East Coast of the United States, which is why Democrats objected so loudly when the Trump proposed budget cut funding to the National Weather Service and cut funding to FEMA. Even today, with potentially more destructive power than Hurricane Harvey headed our way, 17 Republicans in the Senate voted against Hurricane Harvey relief funding, including Senator Lindsey Graham, whose state of South Carolina has been hit hard by hurricanes before and may be hit hard by Hurricane Irma. Most of the time on this program, we concentrate our discussions on government. We take government seriously, including who is running the government. And we do that because we know how important the government is. We know lives are at stake, and we know it can be unpredictable when we will need government to save lives. It has become popular over the last few decades in Republican politics, especially, to mock government, to attack the American government. Donald Trump got elected president by attacking American government and the people who work in it. And he could never stop talking about how easy it is to govern, how easy it would be for him to make the decisions, make the deals, get the job done as president of the United States. And now tonight, even Donald Trump knows that government is a deadly serious business, an especially deadly serious business in Florida tonight, and that government's ability to respond to the hurricane on its way to Florida can save lives, including possibly lives in and around Donald Trump's properties in Florida. Luckily for the Americans' lives who are at stake as this deadly hurricane approaches, it is not Donald Trump who they will be relying on. It is the professionals in government who will do their best to save them from the dangers of this storm, to rescue them if necessary, to protect them. The elected officials who run for office with an expressed hatred of government will actually have nothing to do with how this natural disaster is handled. The career professionals at the National Weather Service, the career professionals at FEMA, the career professionals in the national government are the people we will rely on when Irma hits Florida. And they are the very same people who politicians will continue to attack when they attack government in order to be elected to that government. And they are the people whose jobs those politicians will propose cutting when a hurricane isn't headed toward this country. At least 9 people in the Caribbean have already been killed as Hurricane Irma mowed down islands like Barbuda. Anyone with relatives, friends, or loved ones in the Caribbean knows the horrors of hurricanes. The 6 million people in the Miami area could suffer a direct hit by Hurricane Irma. Floridians have been warned. Mass evacuations are underway, but there are always people who cannot afford to evacuate, who don't have the ability to evacuate, who need help to evacuate. And as if Irma wasn't enough to worry about, another hurricane, Jose, has now reached Category 3 status as it tracks across the Atlantic behind Irma. A double hit of hurricanes on the East Coast is almost unthinkable. And if you aren't busy evacuating or trying to evacuate now, all you can do is wait to see what happens when Irma reaches Florida Sunday morning.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.